So Donald Trump recently made some comments about George W. Bush and 9/11. Now, in that interview, of course, with Bloomberg, Trump said of Bush, he was president, okay? Blame him or don't blame him, but he was president, and the World Trade Center came down during his reign. Now, obviously, afterwards, Jeb Bush tried to go and tried and failed to defend his brother on CNN, but now he has a little bit of help from Republican Congressman Peter King, who said this on Megyn Kelly's show.
Well, there you have it, Congressman King, that they all go back to those CIA briefings, to what George Tenet was allegedly telling the White House at the time, warning about Osama bin Laden. And now Donald Trump is squarely putting George W. Bush at the center of this debate, disputing that he kept us safe because 9/11 happened on his watch.
Oh, two things. Let me just say one thing. Donald Trump has contributed to my campaigns, and I have no affiliation with the Bush campaign. Having said that, what Donald Trump said is totally misleading and untrue, and what your previous guest said is entirely untrue. Those briefings that President Bush got as late as August 6th from Mike Morrell, who ended up being the acting director of the CIA, said specifically that there was no evidence at all of any attack coming against the United States. The attacks they were concerned about were in Europe. George Tenet in his memoirs said they had absolutely no evidence at all that there was going to be an attack in the United States. And for it was Michael Moore and others who started that talk. And for Donald Trump,
Michael Moore, you said.
Michael Moore.
The Michael Moore.
The Michael Moore, who Donald Trump now is sounding like a left-wing Michael Moore wacko. I mean, this is just wrong, what he's saying. And for Republican candidate, listen, you can have honest differences with President Bush on various policies. On 9/11, the fact is he had absolutely no warning whatsoever. And he did unite the country afterwards. And I lost many constituents on that day. Believe me, if I thought for a moment that President Bush had any responsibility for that, I'd be the first to talk about it.
Well, wait a minute. That happened under his watch. And there were actually numerous warnings that there was going to be a terrorist attack. Remember, an attack is imminent. Imminent. That's what all these memos were saying. Intelligence from the Clinton administration says, hey, watch out for Osama bin Laden. We think he's going to attack America. You might want to watch out for it. You might want to make some preparations. You know what George Bush did? I don't care. I'm going to go golfing. Watch this swing. He had nothing to do. No. If I thought that he had anything to do with, if that was his responsibility, then I would have said something. Well, you should have said something, and you fucking didn't. Because you're an establishment GOP hack. Okay, anyway. On to his statements. Well, you sound like the left-wing wacko Michael Moore. If you think that Donald Trump is going to let that one go unanswered, ooh, you don't know Donald Trump. Expect it. Trump will come. If you sound the call by calling him Michael Moore, Trump will come. Okay, anyway. Now, substance. Donald Trump was actually right. There was evidence of an attack, as I said. It was imminent, but it was ignored. Those are facts. Now, Trump actually didn't, he went out of his way to say, well, I don't really blame Bush. But it was implied. It was one of those, one of those tricks, right? Where you're like, I didn't say it, but I just said it. It was Bush's fault. He did not keep us safe. Which is absolutely true. Donald Trump is correct. But neoconservatives like Peter King, who, by the way, they love the Iraq invasion. They love bombing people. But they hate facts. They hate facts. They love to say the Bush line that George W. Bush, he kept us safe. He kept America safe, right? During 9/11. No, he didn't. The fact that 9/11 actually happened shows the opposite. George Bush did not keep us safe. You can't have the worst terrorist attack in America happen under your watch and claim that you kept us safe. That's stupid. That's stupid. And it's not true. Now, look, whether or not I dislike Bush, and I do, right? It doesn't really matter here, right? Because of the facts. Now, the facts are that Bush, as I said, ignored intelligence. He actually didn't care about Osama bin Laden. His main focus was on Iraq. That was his stated policy goal. And in fact, there were some leaked emails that showed that George Bush and UK Prime Minister Tony Blair were actually working together to sell the Iraq War a year before it happened. At least a year. That classified document also discloses that Blair agreed to act as a glorified spin doctor for the president by presenting, quote, public affairs lines to convince a skeptical public that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction, in which he did not. In an odd way, I guess I kind of have to thank the Benghazi committee for these emails. These were from Hillary's emails that were released through court order. Ironic, isn't it? Good job, guys. You exposed the run-up to the Iraq War for the bullshit lie that it was. And it didn't have anything to do with 9/11. Didn't have anything to do with keeping America safe. And it had everything to do with invading Iraq for no fucking reason. Nothing to do with keeping us safe. So not only did he did George W. Bush ignore all the intelligence and let 9/11 happen. Not maliciously. I don't think it's like he planned 9/11 or any of that conspiracy bullshit. But he certainly didn't think it was enough of an issue. Who cares? I don't believe that. I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to do. I'm just going to ignore this intelligence because I don't believe it's going to happen. No, they'd never attack us. No, let's focus on Iraq because Osama bin Laden and the Al-Qaeda terror network, well, they're not really big priorities. Eventually we'll get to those guys, but the bigger prize is Iraq. That's who we want to go after. Saddam Hussein. And not Osama bin Laden. And this is the guy Peter King wants to say, and all the neoconservatives say kept America safe. What a bullshit lie. What a bullshit lie. Now, as far as Steve King goes, right? Now, he likes Trump when Trump says terrible things about immigrants, but doesn't like it, calls him a left-wing wacko, like Michael Moore, when he says something that's actually true. And see, that's sort of why the GOP establishment hates Trump. Peter King, I mean, as I said, Peter King supports Trump in some ways and even praised him for saying things about immigration and saying some things that align with the neoconservative view. But when he says something that's out of line, intentional or not, well, sometimes Trump, intentionally or not, has the audacity to tell the truth. And people like Peter King hate that. They hate the truth.